And if McKenna Williams makes it here in time, she'll speak as well. So, Grayson.
Hi, my name is Grayson White, and I'm a 7th grade at UK Middle School. This year I'm taking an Introduction to Agri-Science. In Agri-Science, we have learned many useful topics. Some of my favorite are plant science and animal science. Right now we are learning where our food comes from, which is very important to me because I like to know where my food comes from. My favorite part of Agri-Science is going outside and filling in our garden beds and cleaning up our greenhouse. We are about to start planting seeds in our greenhouse. The information that will be beneficial in my future will be like, we learn how to take care of plants and how much sun they need, how much type of fertilizer they need, how much water they need, and take that and plant a garden by myself.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you, Grayson. So again, we did have another high school student that was going to be joining us this evening. So maybe another time McKenna can speak to her experiences on the high school level of program. But none of these great things here at either the middle school across the parking lot or here at the high school can take place again without our amazing CTE staff. The passion that they pour into students to set them up for the next stage or next level of life are truly amazing. In closing, I want to have Peggy Spiak, our College Career and Life Readiness Coordinator, just speak briefly about some of the things on the horizon for CTE.
May I say one thing? Just because McKenna's mom just messaged me. They got the location wrong. They are en route. So, Ms. Biak, I know you can dance for a little bit, sing a song.
You know me too well.
Is a rock star, just like Grayson. So, they are en route. Mr. Miller, is that the door?
It is, but I think.
Okay. Yep. So, sorry, Ms. Spiak.
Oh, that's quite all right. I'm glad she'll probably be right in time. So I am Peggy Spiak, and I get the wonderful honor of serving as a College Career and Life Readiness Coordinator. And one of the roles that I have is being able to support Daphne and all of her wonderful staff, particularly in terms of Perkins grant funding and some things like that, but just overall in programming, we talk about expansion. So the next slide centers purely on expansion. So our cadet program, I know you all are familiar with it. However, we've got some data points to share with you. To give you a little bit of information, last year was the inaugural year. There were 29 students in that year. This year, there are 29 students. So we can't say that we have any marked growth, but that is certainly not any slight to Chief McDonald. When we're looking at year-long schedules and competing for space as students get older, that can be a difficult decision to be made for a student. So he's constantly looking at growth and expansion. And one way to move the needle on exposure, which then moves the needle on enrollment, is by looking at the middle school as a cadre of students for both the exposure and the future enrollment, to create a pipeline, if you will, at the high school. So that's one of the goals next year, is to really look particularly at how we can leverage relationships with the middle school for the 8th grade to increase that enrollment. So we are very, very optimistic about that. Another program that I'm super excited to tout is one that we've actually had in New Kent County schools before. About the pandemic time is when we had an amazing teacher leave us, and I was very sad because I thought that was going to be the death of the program. And very excited to say that this year we have a truly exemplar teacher. If anyone has ever met Mr. Perry, then you know exactly why he's the most phenomenal example for teachers to teach this program. It's just a no-brainer. So he is absolutely wonderful, and he's got that program off the ground, including what we call the CTSO. Basically that's the student organization tied to that course. And for every program we have in CTE, we are charged with having a student organization as well. So we're excited about that. And some notes about his current status right now is, right now we have obviously revived that program. We have 12 students in the program. That is also a year-long class, so it can also be a little challenging to work with year-long schedules. And we currently have a level 1. Of course, next year the level 2 will be added to support those students. I have no doubt that that program is going to grow in numbers. As most of you also are aware of, the shortages in teachers really around the entire country, and we're not immune to that either. However, if you also know the data show that students who go through teacher prep programs most often choose their home locations to embed those skills. So the ability to create, again, that pipeline for future hires, to retain and grow our own. And I know that our human resources department, they've been amazing at working on incentives for students that complete Teachers for Tomorrow to be hired and brought into the fold. So I think that's going to be a program that we may have to wait a little bit to see the fruits of the labor, but they are definitely there for us. The exciting thing is we've already got our applications ready, likely for you guys to review, about making the classes dual enrollment classes. So it will not mean that a student has to pursue college and high school credit for the courses, but it is offered to them. The course can run concurrently for those students not seeking credit and seeking credit. So it's really a win-win for students, and it would award a 3-credit class on the college level for each one of those levels to be 6 total credits by the time they finish the completer sequence. So that's all very exciting. Next screen, please. All right. One of the other mandates that we have in order to receive that Perkins funding that I talked about, that's a federal grant, is we are charged with having an advisory committee. Well, I say charged with that, but we all know that's best practice in terms of leadership and being able to get stakeholder feedback. So our CT advisory panel includes all of those different stakeholders that you see there. It truly is a 360-degree approach to getting feedback involving students, involving parents, as well as our teachers, including our community college representatives. Our business and industry folks are key. And we really strive to make sure that our representation of business and industry really reflects our top employment areas within the county, because that makes sense. And a spinoff that's become extra helpful from that is they have gotten so excited about what we offer that they volunteered their time. So a couple of weeks ago, we had our mock interviews for seniors, and a couple of our members took part in that. So we love that. We love being able to show off our students, and the committee allows us to do that, but it also becomes an avenue for getting them engaged with us and seeing what our students can do. All right. So with that, is McKenna here? McKenna is here. That was perfect timing.
Rose is here.
I didn't even have to do a jig or anything, McKenna. So come on up, and if you wouldn't mind please sharing your feedback on your experience with Ms. Eubank's program.
Hi, my name is McKenna Williams. I took horticulture and greenhouse management with Ms. Eubanks. That means 2 semesters with her. In these courses, I learned how to grow food, grow plants, how to manage a greenhouse correctly, as well as how to properly care for these plants. My favorite knowledge that I've learned from Ms. Eubank is most definitely learning how to plant these plants. Each plant is different, so that means we spent lots of time in the textbook, but we also got to spend time in the greenhouse doing hands-on learning. And this has inspired me to want to grow my own garden when I get older. And Ms. Eubank is just an amazing teacher. She truthfully made my experience in that class very special. She made me feel like a special student, and I couldn't be more grateful for the time that I had in her class.
McKenna, so that's one part of your CTE experience. You actually are doing another part of a CTE experience with our regional partner, with Bridging. You want to tell the, just because I know everything you do. Share with
Please
the
share
board.
with us. It sounds like
I'm
it's
really
great.
nervous.
McKenna's an
No, that's
incredible,
fine.
amazing student, and I just,
Don't be nervous.
so talk about what you're doing now with Bridging.
So right now, I'm in the nursing program at Bridging Communities, which means I will graduate high school with my certified nursing assistant license. Right now, we are doing a lot of textbook information, so we just finished Lipcott's Essentials for Nursing in a Holistic Way, so that means caring for the person as a whole and as an individual, not only their physical but also their mental well-being. We also have learned medical terminology, which is quite challenging. And right now we're into medication aids. We're learning about different therapies, how to administer medications, how we can become a medical aid. And in the next, either this month or next month, I'll be taking my CNA exam after we've done over 100 hours of clinicals.
Awesome.
I have a question for you, if I may. Mr. Chair, you good with that? It's a good place for that?
You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. What is the, how many credits are you able to carry over, McKenna, to, for instance, if you wanted to continue and pursue an LPN or RN? Do those credits, are they transferable, or?
So my nursing care for holistic is transferable, and so is my terminology. But our medication aid section that we are in right now is unfortunately not through Rappahannock Community College. It's just going to be a high school credit, but my other 2 credits will transfer.
Excellent.
3 high school and 10 college credits to be.
Thank you, I didn't know the exact numbers.
That's what I'm your backup. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
We are going to take a recess. All right, we are now resuming regular session. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. My fellow board members, by now you've had the opportunity to review the items listed in the consent agenda as follows. Minutes from the previous meetings that include the May 20th work session, the October 7th regular session, the October 15th work session, and the October 9th regular session, as well as the monthly financials and the superintendent's recommendations regarding personnel matters. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, please poll the board.
Mr. Ryder?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
Ms. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
And Mr. Pagano?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is new business. The first item is the school calendar update with Mr. Hockman.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, Dr. Nichols, good evening. This evening I am here to talk to you about the work of our calendar committee. We are very proud of the work we've done. We met 2 times, once in December, once in January. We had a wonderful group that included students, parents, assistants, teachers, administrators, and district level administrators from across our division and all of our schools being represented.
Mr. Hoffman, really?
We're moving on.
It's 60 degrees today, let's keep it moving.
They're just calling for snow next week, Dr. Nichols. I want to make sure you're aware of that. One of the things that was very unique about this year's calendar committee was the opportunity to potentially, for you all to approve 2 years worth of the calendar. As you know, this year we came back 1 week prior to Labor Day. Moving forward, we will be coming back 2 weeks prior to Labor Day. And with that, we can have the opportunity to put 2 years worth of calendars out there, which is just more information for our families as they're planning what they would like to do during their summer vacations and summer breaks. Some of the things that we look at in creating the calendar include looking at the previous calendar committee's work, looking at our previous calendars. Right there, you can see that we met in December, we met in January. One of the expectations of the members of the committees was to go out and solicit feedback from their school communities and then report back on those, which would help us create the calendars, and that is exactly what we did. Some of the other considerations, and these are sort of the school level considerations that we have to put into effect for our calendar: 9 teacher work days prior to the start of students, 100 instructional days, 990 instruction hours, and 140 clock hours for our high school students. The contract plays a big role in the calendar to include 200 teacher contract days. This year we looked at 2 work days and learning days as opposed to what we had done in the past with at-home learning days. That is going on this year as well. We also, a very popular change we made a couple years ago was a 1 week at Thanksgiving, 2 weeks at winter break as usual, and also 1 week at spring break. So this is sort of the furthest, as you can see on the bottom, it is a draft. And what we came back with is a 2 week prior to Labor Day start, which would put us on August 18th. Because we are starting prior to Labor Day, we are required to take a 4-day weekend for Labor Day weekend, so that is shown there in the calendar. In blue with the arrows, you can see the half day of PD and the half work days. That is very important for our professional development because that needs to be ongoing, continuous, and connected for our teachers, and spreading them out like that gives us a great opportunity for Mr. Miller and his staff to make sure that that is happening. In there you also will see reflected that we have a week at Thanksgiving, 2 at Christmas, and then also 1 week for spring break, which is split over the last week of March into early April, with a last day of school happening on May 29th. So that is the calendar that the committee came up with that was recommended. If you look out, that's for 25-26. If you look out to 26-27, it almost mirrors that, except you're starting 1 day earlier on August 17th. And everything else is almost identical as we move through that calendar year.
The 26-27 one, because of the way that Memorial Day falls, we would actually get out of school before Memorial Day. 25-26 Memorial Day is the latest it could be, so we won't quite make that. Or it's the earliest it could be, I'm sorry.
Earliest,
first. So outside of that, the calendars are almost identical.
Mr. Hockman, point of clarification, tonight before the board, the vote is on the 25-26 school calendar year, correct? Not both years.
You are, what you can do, and you can approve the 25-26, and if so inclined, you could also approve the 26-27.
25-26 is what's on the action, just to clarify that
Right.
piece.
Is there any reason not to approve the 26th?
Mr. Reimer?
Sorry.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Cunha, do you have any questions or discussion?
No, sir.
Okay. Ms. Dombrowski?
No.
Mr. Vaughn?
Yeah, just for clarification for everyone else, why the start before Labor Day?
A couple years ago, there was a lot of push to do that, and historically, that sort of predates me. Dr. Nichols, if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Sure. The main driver, once the General Assembly basically vacated the King's Dominion law, which stated you had to be post Labor Day unless you had a waiver for weather conditions. For us, it lines up with one, from an athletic standpoint, going earlier is beneficial because fall sports starts so early. The second piece is all of our regional programs, Bridging Communities, Chesapeake Bay, Code RVA, and Maggie Walker, all start 2 weeks pre-Labor Day. So we've been running multiple transportation schedules in order to make sure our kids are able to attend those programs. You saw McKenna tonight, she's at Bridging Communities. She started a week ahead of us. She will actually finish Bridging Communities a week ahead of us. You have kids with, and we have over 100 kids at Bridging Communities. It impacts scheduling in those pieces. So for efficiency of operations and to line up regionally with a lot of those things, that's the big drivers.
I just wanted to make that so everyone understands that aside from us, understanding that, because I do and have been questioned on that. Also, Mr. Chair, I don't know how you would probably like to do this, but I would like to make a motion to amend action item A to include the additional 26-27 calendar year.
Is there a second?
Second.
So I'm going to restate the motion. The motion by Mr. Vaughn, seconded by Ms. Dombrowski, is to add to tonight's action items consideration of approval of the 25-26 school calendar year and the 26-27 school calendar year. Ms. Davis, please poll the board.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaughn?
Aye.
Ms. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye. Mr. Reimer, you have the floor, sir.
Let's move.
You can present the motion to reconsider if you have any items to discuss. All right, thank you, Mr. Reimer.
That's all that I have, unless there's any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Power School update. Mr. Sean Terry.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, and Dr. Nichols. I'm here to just provide a little bit of context on the Power School data breach. I'm sure all of you guys have heard by now that Power School did experience a data breach. We have been in communication with Power School. We have been in communication with Vacor, who is our risk management provider, who has been giving us some advice and recommendations on how we should proceed further. But basically what happened is a bad actor gained access to Power School through a maintenance account and a credential that was shared across all Power School instances. So what that really means is, let's just say there's an account called support. Every single instance of Power School for every single customer used the exact same password for that support account, and that account was compromised through the dark web. At which point there was ransomware because data was pulled using that support account. So what's happened since then is Power School has, one, changed the password so it's unique per customer, and also that account by default is turned off. The only way it gets turned on is if we put in a support ticket and they ask us for permission to have that support account turned back on, at which point it's open for a window of time that we define, and at the end of that window, the password is then changed again. So, and then the support account is turned off. So that's kind of the stances that Power School has taken to keep something like this from happening in the future. So both cloud and self-hosted customers were impacted. So we happen to be a cloud customer, but there were folks that actually had PowerSchool on their own servers that were also compromised, because it doesn't matter, once they had that credential, they could get into any version of PowerSchool that was available on the web.
Mr. Chair, can I jump in just?
Yeah,
just to-
absolutely.
Just to reiterate, this is a PowerSchool hack breach nationally with thousands of schools. It does impact school divisions like New Kent County Public Schools, but so having been here since 2019, we had our own cyber attack that was directly related to New Kent County Public Schools. So some may remember that piece. This is completely different in that it was PowerSchool. One of the recommendations from Baycor, who's our risk management provider in the 2019, I guess I'm the only one who's here in 2019, I'm getting old, was to move to the cloud because we were self-hosting. When you're working with a major company like PowerSchool, their sophistication, although it does not sound like it in the introduction, should be far greater as far as protection and support. So, but in this instance, it wouldn't have mattered if you were hosted, self-hosted, or online with PowerSchool. So, sorry, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to.
No, that's helpful. And so the common action was they basically got into the user as a support account and then dumped data tables out of the system. The primary two data tables that they're dumping out of the system are the student data table and the staff data table. So PowerSchool gave us some initial logs that we could look up to see what was hacked. What we see in the logs is that the student data was pulled twice, but we have no indication of, was that one school worth of data? Was it all of our students? Was it a small subset of students or not? PowerSchool has not communicated that directly to us. So right now, our assumption is all of our student data was taken, and we're waiting to hear back from PowerSchool. So PowerSchool is still investigating, and PowerSchool is obligated to provide the legal notices to anyone whose data was breached. And that's where Baycor comes in and tells us, do not try to investigate and act on this on your own, because you're creating liability for yourself when you do that. We need to let PowerSchool run its natural course. They have to be in contact with the Attorney General and notify them of the legal notices that they're gonna send to users that were breached. And so again, PowerSchool is gonna send any formal notices to anyone who was breached. PowerSchool is offering 2 years worth of credit monitoring for free to anyone impacted. And then Ashley Meredith has created a web page based on the information that Baycor and PowerSchool is feeding us to provide a landing place for our parents to launch to PowerSchool's support and some other documentation that tells parents what they can do to help protect their data moving forward.
And board members, that's where we are as of today related to it, and we want to give you a public-facing update related to it.
Mr. Reimer?
The hosted, in the cloud, what operating system is it hosted under?
I believe it's a Windows server.
In terms of the app itself, does it have internally, other than the one admin account, does it have multiple permission levels within it?
You mean PowerSchool, the application itself?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, there are many, many roles and responsibilities within PowerSchool.
So as a user, I can get heightened permissions and do the same kind of thing that they do.
So all of our PowerSchool is integrated in single sign-on bound back to the user's Google account that we provide for them. So it's their staff email account with staff email authentication.
So, and as you authenticate via your email, do you get a standard permission set then?
You get the permission set that we have assigned to the user based on their role in this organization.
So you have a single sign-on account that assigns roles within the organization?
No. We have a person that assigns roles to users based on their job title and their duties and responsibilities.
And based upon those roles, how much logging is done as they do work within the system?
You mean, do we have a record of who changed what data? Absolutely, yes.
And was that, and because the person who logged in with this admin role, we have no knowledge about who that was because it was a generic
It was a generic admin account, like, I'm not sure exactly what the name of the account is, I mean, they're
Were we able to
describing it as a
trace the
support.
IP?
Yeah, so that is the log search that we did. So Power School worked with another provider, the antivirus program provider, CrowdStrike. And so CrowdStrike worked with Power School to determine the ransomware attack and the source, and then provided us with the IP that the attack was. So that's how we were able to look in the logs and see what
I
data
assume
was.
it's outside of country.
Yes, it was outside of the country.
So, had we asked Power, one of the ways to prevent this from occurring, obviously, is to have no admin account, period, and to require to set up an account that an individual user from their company could log into that would have heightened permissions.
That is what the account is. It's an individual, it's a support account on their side of the house,
Yeah.
not on our side of the house.
But that's the point. They would not be able to access anything from their side of the house, only through accounts that we gave them.
Okay, we can discuss that with
Yeah.
Power School.
So in the idea being that if they wanted to work on our account, we would create an account for them.
Right.
They would log in using that account.
That we provided.
That we provided, yes.
Okay, we can,
Do you see where I'm going with this? It's one thing to trust. It's another thing to trust and verify. It is a third thing to prevent.
Right,
And the whole idea that they would have an account that allows them to get into our system, that they are hosting, by the way, right?
right.
That doesn't cut it.
Okay.
Anyway, if you want me to be part of a conversation with them, I'd be more than happy to.
But I suggest we probably have a conversation,
Yes.
kind of get into some of the specifics related to that, so we know.
But you get the gist of what I'm.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Mr. Vaught?
No,
Mr. Brusky?
out of my league.
And Ms. Cooney? All right, Mr. Terry, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's proposed budget update with Dr. Nichols and Ms. Morheim.
Absolutely. Just like I am the deputy clerk, I am the deputy in finance. Sharon is here. So Ms. Morheim has been working a tremendous amount on the budget. This is a budget where we still don't have the numbers, and we won't. But Ms. Morheim will talk to you about what we do know, what we think we know, and then what the requests have been across our process.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Feels like we just always talk about budget, right? So we just continue. Just an update on some of the key points in our process for folks that don't know, and then we've talked about it in board meetings. We do hold budget forums at each of our school, and really that's for Dr. Nichols and I to sit in each school all day and really have anyone come back and provide their feedback of what they would like to see in our budget. This year, we added a community budget forum. Some of you are in attendance for part of that, and we did have a few people come out, which was nice to receive that feedback as well. We do have position requests currently that we're reviewing. In the upcoming weeks, we'll be prioritizing those position requests, and we'll be sure that we're sharing those with you as well. February 11th, we have parent-teacher and community advisory meetings, so we'll also be discussing some of our budget points with them as well. After the budget process, we kind of go through faculty meetings or meetings with staff just to kind of update them on where we are as well. Also, just for the community to know that anyone at any time can provide feedback through this email address, budget@nkcps.k12.va.us. Currently, and I think we talked about this at the last meeting, the budget, the state revenues are pretty much, we're the second year of the biennium, so we kind of knew where we were. And that was that the state was providing a 3% pay increase. I believe we spoke about that and the difference in what we're provided versus what that actually costs for New Kent County Public Schools. So the additional state revenue we're receiving is about $728,527, and about $500,000 of that is specific to the compensation supplement. You'll see in a future slide that it costs us a little over $1 million to to provide a 3% to staff. So we need about another $500,000 just to provide that for all of our staff. We do anticipate some increases. We have seen a little bit of a preview on what the House and Senate are bringing out, and it does look favorable for K-12 education, so there's some hope and that we will receive some additional state funding. We'll know that in the upcoming weeks, and we'll certainly keep you posted. Additionally, we'll be communicating with the county and really finalizing what our operating requests from the county will be, also to support with all the things that we're prioritizing in our requests. We'll continue to remain flexible. One thing that we have spoken about a little bit is continuing to have a conservative budget. We have stretched a little bit from that in the past few years because of our shifts in ADM with the pandemic and just getting a little bit back to normal. We're starting to get into a little bit better of a rhythm in predicting what our enrollment will be, but I would recommend that we keep our ADM budgeted at 3,500 students for next year. Just a couple of salary and benefit notes. There will be more recommendations, but just wanted to talk through. We did have some amendments in the current year where we had to add some staff specifically for increased enrollment at GW. That was 2 teaching positions and then also 4 paraprofessional positions for special education. These were our level 3 paraprofessionals, which are more to work with high need students, many of which moved into the county, and that's something that we have to provide. As I mentioned, the cost of a 3% increase is $1,045,730. That will be a recommendation that you'll see, along with some additional adjustments as well. One thing that we're looking at to try to increase the starting teacher salary is to move the entire scale up to 3% and then still provide that step to teachers. If you remember last year, we fully decompressed the scale, so we're at a 1% increment. So that would be an additional 1% for teachers. Above that, we would like to look at the VRS years of service for our staff. There are some that are not at the step that they should be based on their years of experience. Back when we had some compression a very long time ago. So we're going to try to write that and move them forward. No VRS changes, which is great. And again, we're going to have a very good projection for our healthcare for next year. So we are very hopeful that we will not see any major increases for staff for healthcare for next year, which is great. A lot of folks are hearing increased healthcare costs, so we're very thankful that the hard work of our team, as you know, we're self-funded, so kudos to everyone. Regional programs that we participate in, we are seeing a couple increases. I'll say, minor with Code RVA and Maggie Walker, and I won't read them all to you. One significant increase we'll see is Bridging Communities. Dr. Nichols, we've talked about the number of students that we have in that school versus the number that we're actually paying for. So right now we're getting quite the deal, but the center is looking to increase the total seats in that program. So then we would begin paying for more, if that makes sense.
Right now, we're allocated 73 seats. That's currently what we're paying for. We have just under 100 students there. We continue to grow. You saw one of them here tonight. We've been doing that for consecutive years, so now it's a shift to kind of buy in and buy more of those seats because we have students. We still have a wait list for programs, and Bridging would like to expand, but that requires more building space. Mr. Vaught and I have a meeting later this week, I think, or next week, with Bridging Communities. So, but we have, when you talk about 100 kids, it's going to be a pretty nice increase.
Yeah, it'll be $45,000 to about $66,000, depending on what we decide on Thursday at their meeting. So just a heads up for that.
Yes, Ms. Camille.
Ms. Lee, the Code RVA increase in the Maggie Walker, is that their tuition's going up, or we have more students?
That is tuition going up, and the reason those are larger than the other two, those are full day, just for the public, these are full day programs. So that's why you see, Code RBA is 11 versus going to Chesapeake Bay. Chesapeake Bay is a half-day program, half-day with us. So, no increase in seats in those two. It is really the tuition increase related to salary and related to the other constraints that those regional schools are working under.
For some of our operational services, just looking at really focusing on inventory and replacement schedules and capital improvement planning. We spoke about this when we awarded the A&E contract, if you remember, talking about having them to do some work for us and really just studying our equipment, our schools, and the life of everything, and really putting together some replacement cycles. So we'll see some of that work coming through. Also continuing to outsource custodial services, but really Mr. Hockman and I have been having some very good conversations with them with regards to retention and really including the custodial staff as a part of the Team New Kent family, and really have done some creative things working with them. So just looking at what we can add in that contract for next year to really support those efforts. Transportation, we are looking at just continued review of the market rates to make sure that we're competitive with salaries, but also other benefits that we're offering our transportation staff. Mr. Hens is looking at a partnership with Bridging on an internship for the shop, which will be great work between him and Bridging. Technology, Mr. Terry, we've added Simple Discipline this year, which was purchased with grant funds, so we will not have to fund that in next year's budget, but we will be looking in FY27 to fund that. We also are exploring the iPads in pre-K1, I believe in the spring this year, and then looking at implementing that possibly next year. And as you all know, we implemented the 3,500 Chromebooks and 400 staff units were deployed this year, so kudos to Mr. Terry and his team. Safety and security, as you know, we've implemented the weapons detection system, so really schools are just looking for what additional support they need to be able to man those stations and really have that support in the schools. Position requests, I will say our position requests currently are about $3.1 million. This will definitely be a budget that is heavy on position requests, not necessarily for the growth of our community, but more in the support of our schools and our division. So just a couple of highlights. Teachers for Growth, that's one that I think that we do need a few. No one's really asked for a position specifically due to growth in the number of students, but I do think that with our growth, that might be something that we need to reserve, possibly a superintendent's complement of 1 or 2 positions that we can just have budgeted in case we do need them once we see what our kindergarten enrollment is and things of that nature.
Board members, the past 3 years, we've seen a spike at a certain grade level or 2, and we've needed to hire. So this would essentially give us a couple teaching positions in reserve. So if kindergarten comes in large, we already have it, and we can hire as soon as that happens. Or like we've had random things where we get like 15 fourth graders that move in, and that just throws everything out of whack. It's always good to have that there in order to keep class size where we would like it.
We are seeing a lot of requests for exceptional education and student services support, so you'll be seeing a lot of that. Instructional coaches, just adding to the secondary literacy. This year we started with the math coach at the secondary level, so continuing with secondary literacy and possibly a coach for special education. Request that is passed from last year for an additional assistant principal at our high school, as well as a gifted teacher. Maintenance and transportation, a few positions for growth just of the division, and with some of the work that we'll be doing, hopefully with building a new New Kent Elementary School, that will be beneficial. School security support, as I mentioned, and other student support positions, more for testing and intervention and things of that nature.
So board members, just as a reminder, as we go from this point to the superintendent's recommended budget, which I'll present to you guys as a first read in March, those lists will be prioritized. A lot of things will not make it because we want to bring you a budget that's close to balance. But this, we also feel like we should let you know what the actual requests were and the totals around it and what we got from the people that we met with. And oftentimes, it doesn't make this year, you'll see it again the following year as we continue to grow and evolve. So what we want to do tonight is just kind of bring you where we are in the process.
And just next steps, really, like we mentioned, with having the information come out from the state, and really figuring out where we are with our state funding and what our priorities and needs are. Like Dr. Nichols said, bringing the budget presentation to you on March 3rd and having a little bit deeper discussion on some of these items. And then we will see our budget as part of Mr. Hathaway's proposal to his budget on March 10th. And then we'll have a retreat, similar to what we did last year, I believe, in March. And following that, we'll have a hearing on our recommended budget, and we will approve that budget. And once the county adopts their budget, we'll come back to you for final adoption of our budget.
So there's still a lot of stops and a lot of room along the way as we learn. Crossover is tomorrow with House and Senate. So it's interesting when you look at the education side of the House and Senate budgets, they're almost identical in their big priorities. For education. Those big priorities mean additional support revenue coming our way. So we'll adjust along the way. We'll also have meetings with you board members to kind of look at that in more detail and make sure that you have your priorities or the board's priorities are reflected in the budget as well. So February is an extremely busy month for a short month when it comes to a budget lift. But Ms. Morcom works tirelessly through this piece and stays up to date. And if she's not working our budget, she's working on bridgings, or she's working with her regional counterparts to see what they're doing so that we can remain competitive. You took a huge push forward as a board last year by decompressing the salary scale. That allows us to make that next step here. So we appreciate your support and advocacy as we have an ask to the county for additional support moving forward.
Ms. Morgan, I have a question that may be difficult to answer, but in lieu of the president's frenzy of executive orders and courts blocking his orders on federal funding and so on, do you anticipate, if any of those orders hold, that they'll impact the school budget?
We don't believe so. We've followed a lot of different sources, and folks, DAS has sent some information out, VDOE has sent some things here and there to individuals that we kind of all talk behind the scenes. And I don't think our major funding that might be impacted through that was our 6B fund and some of our school nutrition, and we do not believe at this time that those will be impacted for this year. And so right now we're feeling very comfortable about that.
But I mean, each day that's a great question, because each day we uncover like another source of revenue. So today, in conversation, we talked about E-rate, which is a federal funding piece, which gives us 60% discount, Mr. Terry, if I'm right?
60, yes, sir.
So like we're going to do, we did a major Wi-Fi refresh here this summer, dramatically improved connection for teachers. We want to do that at the middle school next summer. That's a huge amount of money, and 60% is a big discount on that project. So we're watching it carefully. We're talking to organizations that specialize in these things so that we have a read on it. But yeah, we lost a lot of time that day trying to make sure that we had everything lined up for our people. So.
And just trust that whenever something like that comes up, that we are always immediately looking for contingencies and what can we do if something were to happen, so that we don't get ourselves in a hole that we can't get out of.
Sure. Ms. Cunha, any questions or discussion? Ms. Dombrowski?
Just a couple questions with, when we have students with special needs who move into the district, is there any additional financial assistance that comes from the state or the federal government to provide, you know, either the teachers or the resources to help meet those needs, or are we just kind of left flying solo?
Not really right now. We just would receive additional ADM for that student being in our school division. I will say that's a big part of when we're looking at the funding formula for schools, that schools are definitely being very vocal about. That's a big piece of it, is the special education population and how it can influx and how that affects us trying to figure out a way to fund those positions that are required at that time.
So when Handy says a lot of these position requests are support for schools, that's sort of the avenue that a lot of that support is coming through. It's not necessarily the teacher piece. It's this support around students who have some significant challenges and are making great strides, but it takes more personnel.
And it's a challenge. I want to thank Dr. Young and her staff. They work tirelessly to shift as we are able to so that we will not need to fund additional support positions, knowing that we would need them down the road. But it's a very difficult place to be when you know you need that additional support, but you're looking at trying to balance your expenses in your budget as well. So we try to, help when we can and just be mindful of what we're doing, which is why you see some of those amendments coming forward. But they've done a fantastic job of reducing even the number that we would need to add still with the work.
And our special, you guys know that our special education teachers and paraprofessionals are just remarkable in how they serve every day and support their kids.
And then final question, is there any update in regards to Colonial Downs and the money that's?
So that is still connected to the General Assembly. There is a bill, I don't have it, but I'll look it up, related to shifting that funding model. It is not a complete no funding related to it, but it would be a substantial decrease on the county side. So I know the county is following that one closely and lobbying hard against it. So we'll see how that works through crossover and then what comes out on the other side. A lot of things have been defeated at this point, or tabled, or whatever the terminology would be related to the bill. That one is still alive.
Mr. Vaught?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. Last year, we had a substantial increase in the number of special ed or high-need students. Is that what we're projecting and looking at again? Because the student growth didn't seem like we were anticipating a whole lot of change there. But the change that is coming, is it in that direction, which is a substantially
And that's one of the things.
bigger burden for finance?
So we're looking at that piece, and then one of the tasks that Dr. Young is taking on with help from some other folks is really looking at our students who receive those services now, and has that student been here since kindergarten, when they arrived, and kind of looking at those trends, and not that you can forecast that, but trying to kind of see if we can get ahead of it a little bit. We've had several students come in this year that have required us to adjust personnel and staffing. So just like we'd like to be a little ahead of it with the Teachers for Growth, we'd like to try to see if we can get ahead of that there too. So it's definitely an impact.
Yeah, because as amazing as our special ed teachers are, that's an exceptionally difficult position as well. So we need to make certain, when we look at teacher retention, that we really zoom in on, what we need to do to offer whatever help in addition in terms of resources.
And let's keep that in mind when we're looking at the positions that we're asking for approval on, Mr. Vaught. We try to push it far enough it's a balance that we know that we could potentially absorb a few kids coming in to the county with the complement that we have without overfunding it, because then you're hit up against the maintenance of effort requirements that you have to always improve upon year after year. So you don't want to push too much in and then get stuck having to pay back your 6B funds, but you do want to make sure you're covered, and part of that superintendent's complement and a little bit of that, just kind of hold it in a reserve as a just-in-case type of a situation, or having that conservative ADM figure to just give yourself a little bit of room if you needed to, at a later date, add something.
Well, you guys have been masters at it, and I appreciate it. I just wanted to kind of bring that up and highlight the fact that that's potentially coming. There are not going to be any less residents moving into New Kent.
Right.
So we're going to be facing that. One of the other things, you mentioned the custodial staff, which is, that's contracted service, is that correct?
Correct.
How do we, as far as being Team New Kent, how do you make that happen?
So our principals and staff in our schools do a fantastic job of including the custodial staff in part of their events in their schools. We oftentimes will invite them to attend events that we have as Team New Kent. We will have lunches and different things celebrating their teamwork. Many of you are at our Thanksgiving meal. We would sit down and share a meal with them, and just really having those conversations and making sure that they know that we appreciate the work that they do. And it's not, they work for someone else, and, you know, we all work together on the same team, trying to accomplish the same goals.
And I so appreciate that. I didn't know if there was something involving the contract or the company that we were contracting with, or if it was just extra effort on our behalf, and it sounds like that's the case. So,
Part of it is, and just, that's what Mr. Hockman and I have been trying to get the company to reciprocate that type of a feeling, and they're appreciative of,
Sure.
you can't, you know, they say it's rare that a division comes and really seeks that relationship with their staff, but they have a lot of the same recruitment and retention issues that we have. It's very
Sure.
similar, it's two different jobs with very similar issues, so just trying to tackle it together.
yeah, that makes sense, and I so appreciate that. One last question. In terms of the assistant principal for the high school, I just wanted to highlight, Mr. Chair, also that my position in that, or my desire so far, and I know that we're on the very early in the game, I would like to see that as a policy enforcement and discipline position, more over on the, less on the academia and more on the enforcement and discipline, and take that away from, be able to remove some of that burden from the principal and other assistant principals, if that makes sense. So just for consideration.
Thank you. And we have that up there, just labeled as assistant principal, and looking to Principal Strickland. We had those conversations internally based on budget conversation last year, and are kind of rounding that out and looking at specific duties and what they would do. So definitely open to that conversation, and putting forward a recommendation that specializes more than generalizes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Reiner.
And in addition to that, testing specialist was also something that we had talked about and as a suggestion for those kinds of positions.
That's in that bigger other support bucket, the time that's spent with assessments, whether they are SOL-based assessments or assessments that we're required to do, takes a big toll on us. So,
Yeah.
yes, sir. Yep.
Once again, just trying to refresh everyone's memories on those. The iPads for the pre-K, I assume that's just for testing, right?
It would be, so it would not be, and we're still working through that. Yes, there would be a testing component. It would not be class sets one-to-one, like it would be specific tasks. But we understand that and agree with the minimizing the screen time, especially in elementary. So it's not a one-to-one, take the tablet, you know.
And I continue to be very concerned about screen time for young kids especially.
And we can share more about specifics on that too.
In addition, the gifted position. I know that there can be opportunities internally for teachers to take courses to allow them to become a gifted
Yes, sir.
teacher. Have we explored some of those as well?
Yes, sir. So, and we also, Ms. Anderson and her team do a great job of partnering under tuition reimbursement and really encouraging teachers to be able to add that endorsement. So that avenue, and we do have folks that take advantage of it, is available to staff in addition to special ed add-ons, different.
Just wanted to make
Yes,
sure
sir.
we were pursuing that instead of a hire.
Yeah. ESL endorsement as well, so some of the categories of teachers. We believe the smarter something you become, and you can become smarter, and we have a responsibility to partner with you, and Gifted is a great vehicle to do that.
Exactly.
I agree.
My daughter's doing it now.
Perfect.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, the next matter on the agenda is old business. This is the school board meeting calendar update. Dr. Nichols.
Yeah, so we just have one adjustment to that, board members, and that's to change the work session in February from February 17th. We went back and forth on the Monday, Tuesday piece. When we settled on Monday, that is actually President's Day, and we are closed. And we'd be more than happy to convene for you, but we would rather meet February 19th, and I think the board has availability at 5 o'clock here in the media center, which should be our final meeting in the media center. We'll be back home after that, I do hope. So that is for action tonight to officially change that. So that would be our next meeting, February 19th. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Anyone have any questions?
Nope.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the citizen comment period. Before we begin, I'd like to thank the participants for coming out tonight to speak. Please note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. Once the timer sounds, please promptly finish your comment and return to your seat. It is customary for the school board not to make comment during the citizen comment period. Please make sure your contact information is provided on the sign-up sheet if you'd like someone to follow up with you. Thank you again for participating, and we look forward to your comments. So tonight we have Ms. Yvonne Jones.
Good evening, school board members, Dr. Nichols, and all others. I'm Yvonne Jones, former member of New Kent County Public School System and a member of Second Liberty Baptist Church. On Saturday, January 25th, Second Liberty Baptist Church, in partnership with the New Kent County Schools and Mr. Ross Miller, held an essay contest for the theme, "The Dream Lives On in Me." First place winners had their essays read during our celebration and brunch event and were presented with certificates of participation and gift cards. They were Scarlett Fig, 5th grader at George Watkins Elementary School, Kendall Clark, grade 5 at Quentin Elementary, and Elena Gadsden, 11th grader at New Kent High School. We also recognized at that time the time and talent of Jonathan Lewis Jr. from New Kent Middle School, as well as Talea Wilson, New Kent High School class of 2025. At this time, I just want to highlight some of the other students who were also given the opportunity to participate, and we would have some certificates and gift cards for them, asking the principals to please forward them. But I'd like to just mention that our second place at George Watkins was Berkeley Monroe. Our third place winner was Sawyer Dickerson. At Quentin Elementary, our second place was McKinley Johnson, and our third place was Joseph Morenka. I think that's how I pronounced it correctly. I hope I did. At the high school, the second place was Demani Jackson, and our third place, Ade Falorin Akitadi, and she was our third place. And we also recognized Tristan Jenkins as a honorable mention. We would also like to say how much we appreciate the effort and time given to this venture for us. Our outreach is to do community and to just work with the schools and just to encourage, because the students that are in your building are also the students in our churches. And we would want to be able to recognize them and support you and support your efforts. The teachers are fabulous, and we want to again commend New Kent High School, New Kent Middle School, Quentin Elementary, George Watkins, and New Kent Elementary for the fine work that they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. All right, there are no other citizen comments, so we are moving on to our action items. First item is consideration of approval of the revised school calendars.
Make a motion to approve the revised school calendar. Are the 25, 26 through 20, and 26 through 27 school calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Reimer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please poll the board.
Mr. Reimer.
Aye.
Mr. Vaught.
Aye.
Ms. Dombrowski.
Aye.
Ms. Cunha.
Aye.
And Mr. Pagano.
Aye. All right, the next matter is consideration of approval of the school board meeting calendar change, specifically regarding the February work session. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Dombrowski. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Vaught. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please poll the board.
Mr. Reimer.
Aye.
Mr. Vaught.
Aye.
Ms. Dombrowski.
Aye.
Ms. Cunha.
Aye.
Mr. Pagano.
Aye. All right, there are no further action items, so now we have school board member and superintendent comments. I would just like to say thank you to everyone for coming out and participating tonight, specifically Ms. Eubank and Ms. Spiak, both who teach my children. I'm excited about the CTE and the FFA, and the future of those programs. It's really great stuff. Thank you, Mr. Terry, for his information update on the developing Power School situation. And we want the board, I speak on behalf of the board, I want to assure the public that we take the security of our students and our staff very seriously, and we'll be following up on that issue as it develops. So thank you again. Ms. Cunha?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Ms. Strickland for inviting school board members to participate in the Quarter 2 attendance celebration this past Thursday. Ms. Dombrowski and I were able to make it during the lunch periods. It was sponsored by the PTSO. There was a lot of administration and staff there. It was a lot of fun. We handed out probably over 450 cookies. And I just have to tell you how impressed I was with UKent High School students. All 4 lunches, I didn't see one phone. They were engaged with each other, just being kids, relaxing during their lunch period, having a good time, talking with each other, engaging with us when they came up, and they were so respectful, even though we were thanking them for making the commitment to be here every day, because that's what's important. If they're not here, they're not learning. But it also reflects the work that goes into making the environment welcoming, and I applaud all the work that Ms. Strickland and all the admin and all the staff. It is truly a wonderful, welcoming environment, and you could tell just the kids are just amazing. Had some fun conversations with them. I personally think it's important to have opportunities for the school board members to attend events. The students need to know that we're not just people on a board, that we really care about their well-being and their success. And I think it means a lot to them to put a face to a name and to engage with us and know that we support them and we support the staff. So that was amazing. I also want to congratulate Ms. Gallant and all the Trojan Theater crew for their amazing production of Little Women, from the directing to the stage crew and the acting, and the set was amazing. It was really a great, great production, and I'm looking forward, I guess many of us are looking forward to Shrek the Musical coming out in May. So great job. It was a wonderful performance.
Ms. Dombrowski?
I learned today that several students and former, maybe current staff members in the Fairfax and Loudoun County school districts were unfortunately on the flight that crashed over the Potomac. So I just wanted to extend my condolences to those school districts and communities, and to anybody else who has suffered loss because of that horrific accident. I did have the comments of Mr. Pagano and Ms. Helena, and wanted to add a couple of things. I had the opportunity to go to the George Watkins Elementary jump rope for heart assembly, and I felt like I should have paid admission to get in. It was so entertaining and fun. And Mr. Gibbons, the gym teacher, was just incredible, and to see those kids just thrilled and excited, being together in school and doing something fun was a great thing to see. Also, if you have not come out to see the New Kent High boys basketball team, it is very exciting. They are undefeated, and there is a camaraderie and a culture. They've created just a real family commitment to one another, and it's just very inspiring. So in addition to the great efforts and work occurring in the theater department and the CTE, the athletics is also just a fabulous part of New Kent, and just want to thank everyone who's participating and making those such great events.
Yeah, I once again just want to thank Johanna for all of her hard work, keeping us informed, keeping us updated, and to the assistant clerk, Dr. Nichols, assistant deputy clerk, sorry. Didn't mean to, but in all seriousness, thank you guys for all the hard work you do, all the principals, all the staff. We have an exemplary school system, and it's not perfect, but nor is any other school system, but the strides toward excellence, which we all came onto this board for, are happening right before our eyes because of all of you. The administrative staff, education staff, and the administration in each of the buildings. So on behalf, I think I can speak for the board, we so appreciate everything that you do and the hard work that you do. And we don't take that for granted. We realize there's a lot to do, and it becomes even more difficult when we have a change in administration at the federal level, and then stuff from the state level that we don't know what they're going to do and which way they're going to go. So thank you to all of you for everything that you do.
Mr. Renner.
I have nothing of note to add. My colleagues have said it better than I could have.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Nichols.
Thank you, sir. It's tough going last. A lot of stuff gets covered, but we always push hard as a team to make improvements. But sometimes you just got to sit back for a second and go, wow, we've done some amazing things. I'm going to give you a glimpse of 24 hours of my life last week. First, we were thrilled to find out that Quinton Elementary won Best Project and Design Award from the Association for Learning Environments. They're going to need to build another wing to that school to add all the awards for design. And to think about it, board members, we're going to get to do that again with New Kent Elementary. It's so exciting. Then New Kent Elementary had Otter Day, which is an example. It's hard to say what Otter Day actually is, but it is service learning for active.
Otter, not try.
Yes, it is utterly amazing. But it's service learning in action. So think about 600 plus students doing service learning and making our community better. That was that day. We also were honored to find out that the Virginia Department of Education is coming to visit George Watkins Elementary, recognizing they're one of the highest performing schools in the new accreditation performance metrics. So we found that out and we're excited to welcome them. Meanwhile, we were at New Kent Middle School for Literacy Night. Absolutely packed. You're talking middle school families, middle school kids engaging for hours around literacy. It was beautiful. Then on the stage, as mentioned, our Trojan Theater students delivered an incredible performance of Little Women, showcasing talent, passion, and dedication. And then finally, our New Kent High School basketball team, which is probably in the second quarter right now, across the hall, delivered improved, huge win to remain undefeated, teamwork, perseverance, school spirit. It was an amazing 24 hours in New Kent. Sometimes I get so focused on the next thing we need to improve, I don't just go, wow, I get to work with such an amazing group of people. So from the classroom to the court, stage to service projects, New Kent is an excellent place because of the people that work here and serve here. So board members, I thank you and I thank our community for being amazing.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols.
Yes, sir.
One more time, how about a round of applause for our clerk, Ms. Davis?
I'll take tomorrow.
Negative. All right. We are going to wrap up, guys. The next meeting of the school board will be a work session on Wednesday, February 19th at 5 p.m. here in the Media Center. And with that, at 7:24 p.m., our meeting is adjourned.